Welcome, guys, to another episode of Consciously Curious, where we deep dive with those that are thriving in their passion. On today's episode, we have Miss Jenn Dieas, founder and owner of Glowout Salons. You have their own empire. Jenn has over 20 years in the beauty and hospitality industry, and Glowout Salons is kind of a one-stop shop for all your beauty needs, from your sunless tans to your hair, makeup, nails, eyelash, and brows.
Yeah, all the basics. Everything you would do for like a wedding, a vacation, a big event, kind of all the basics that really make you feel pulled together.
Okay.
That's what we love.
And it can be just for a night out as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. The way I like to go with my episodes is kind of chronological order.
Okay.
And you've done a whole number of like podcast episodes before. I've tried to do some homework.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Where'd you find the information? Google?
Google. It's scary what you can find on Google.
I haven't Googled myself in a while.
So Jenn, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Can you take us back to your childhood? I want to see what happened to kind of nudge you in in this direction. And I know you didn't start out in the beauty industry. You came here for dancing.
I did move here for dancing, but I'd been in the beauty industry at that time, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, you grew up in Florida.
Yeah.
So can you tell me about your childhood?
I grew up in Florida, 10 minutes from the beach. Very middle class family.
Okay.
We did all the things. We did, football, cheerleading, all of those things. But my mom was married to my stepdad. My birth father is a pastor in Alabama.
Okay.
So I feel like I lived this polar experience growing up because I lived with my mom and my stepdad, and there was just a lot to learn there. There was a lot of turmoil in that, and growing up in that system. And then I had this father from afar that was a pastor, and I was really drawn to what he was doing. And just I loved being in that experience. So that was kind of fascinating to me. I'm the only girl of 3 boys.
Oh, nice.
So that was interesting. It's interesting now that I'm in an all-female based business because I grew up around dudes. So I'm just like the most comfortable.
You can hang though. You can hang with the guys.
I really can. So, yeah, that was a fun experience. I loved being raised around boys. So
while you were growing up though, what do you think you had for your plan for yourself? What did your parents want you to do, or what did you want to do?
That whole situation, like being molded by your parents and kind of being pushed to live their dreams, didn't happen for me.
Good for you, yeah.
Yeah, well, it was just almost a breakdown of our family system. My mother and my stepfather divorced when I was going into high school. So I was going to be a freshman. Wow. Yeah. I was really close to... It was weird. It was weird. And I was really close to my stepdad, really loved my stepdad. And that experience caused like a complete unravel of my home situation. So, my mom was a single mom with 4 kids and a secretary's salary.
Wow.
Yeah, and that education level as well. So now when I look back, I always am curious, like, what would that be like to be in that situation? And eventually, there was a lot going on there, but I wonder if the heaviness of having that responsibility by yourself.
Well, I'm sure you had to grow up real quick.
Oh, yeah. And then, we began moving from apartment to apartment, and we're like, okay, we're not staying here very long. It's cool. Yeah. And then we would go to a new apartment, and then finally we would start moving into motels. So it was like we could only afford to stay so long.
Wow.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
The whole family?
Me and my brothers.
Okay.
Yeah, me and my brothers. And my older brother had moved out by that time. So it was me and my 2 other brothers.
Wait, so that's not your mom?
And my mom.
And your mom. Okay, okay.
So at times we would be living in like the Days Inn, the Holiday Inn, the Red Roof Inn, like not fancy places.
But at the time, did you
really understand what was going on? No, I couldn't piece it all together. And there was times where before we started moving to motels, when we were still in apartments, my mom had gotten in trouble with the law several times, but we weren't always privy to that information. Okay. Like we knew something was never right, but we never knew exactly what it was, which is interesting to think about as an adult and like your behavior, but we'll probably get into that. But yeah, she was in trouble with the law, and so her probation officer would visit. So it was like being in this, it's like being in this world where you're like, something is wrong here, sir, something is wrong, but you couldn't say anything because of that system, and they really wouldn't. Like, I don't know. I got the opinion that they were just checking off boxes. Because had he dug a little deeper or asked us any questions, we would have, I wonder if we would have asked for help, because we were in a bad situation. But when he would show up, my mom was one person, and when he would leave, it was on. So it was just an interesting thing. And then I would go and visit my dad, who was a pastor. Right. So I would be in the church around all these nurturing people and be like, why isn't anyone helping me?
Were they not? Your dad wasn't aware?
No, my dad was aware.
Yeah.
He just didn't know what to do.
Oh.
He didn't know what to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then what did you do? Did you just like woman up and be like, I got it sometime, I just got to take charge now?
I think one day I just figured it out. Like, you are on your own, sister. You got to figure it out. Nobody's coming to do it for you.
Are you the oldest?
I was the middle.
Okay.
Yeah, there was 2 before me, and then me, and then my little brother. And I was the only female, and I think that changes the dynamic because, once that system kind of broke apart, my mom was gone a lot of the time. We didn't know where she was. So, and I think it was because she was running from the law. It's like now kind of what I'm figuring out. Once we got to the motel life, like they can't really find you as well or whatever. I'm guessing. I don't know. I don't know if that's what it is. It's my hypotheses. But yeah, it was just a really interesting experience.
It could have been in abandoned buildings too.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So I think I just instinctually knew at that point, and that was it for me.
Okay.
So I used it in the energy in a very specific way to like carve out a life on purpose for myself. Yeah. Because I was like, I'm not doing this. I don't want to be around this. I eventually want to move away from this and like.
Now, what about the brothers? Did you guys band together and
we did. Okay. Oh my gosh. Even after that, my mom eventually went to prison. Okay. And I think it was like 18 at the time. And me and my brothers got an apartment together. Oh, okay. I convinced this guy because I didn't have any credit. Right. I didn't have credit. I didn't even really know how to write a check. Right. And this guy was like, you need first and last. I'm like, what do you mean? I don't have that, sir. We were like 18 years old. And he's like, I don't know what to tell you. And I'm like, you can take my car. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, if it doesn't work out and we don't pay the rent on time, one time, my car's worth like $1,700. Take my Nissan. And he looked at me like, what is this little child doing? I'm sorry. I had to think. I was thinking on my feet,
And were you working at the time?
Yeah.
18? What were you doing?
Yeah. God, what was I doing at that time? That time I think I was probably nannying. Okay. Right after that, I went into like the restaurant world. Okay. And no, I've always had a lot of jobs at once. No, right after that, I started working at Saks Fifth Avenue, through that process, which was crazy because I'm in the fanciest place ever, and I just was done living in a fucking motel. So I'm like, oh my God. And when you walk in, this is so funny to tell the story back. When you walk in every day, you have to go to the security guy and show him your purse because that's part of the process. You're dealing with $900 shirts. Right. And every day I'd be like, this is so interesting that I'm here. And then I would go. I mean, it was where I first saw my first build out because I was there when they started the first salon in my town in Tampa at Saks. And so they did a whole build out of this salon and spa. Wow. So I got to see that budget build out, and I was like, ooh, I like that. Oh. And I loved it. I loved the thought process. We were talking about this earlier, the thought process of what goes into where should people sit and why. Yeah. What will they experience when they're there? And so, I don't know, I was 18 and I was aware of that. I thought it was very cool. And I'm just realizing this as I'm telling you this story. I'm a big walker. Yeah. I walk like many miles.
Urban hiking, yeah.
Yeah. I realized I walk a marathon a month. Wait, a week.
Oh,
shit, it's a week. Yeah, it's a lot. But there used to be in Florida, because it's really hot, all of the older women, to get their aerobic exercise, would walk the mall. Yeah. And I was like, that's what I want to be one day. And I'm kind of there, but I'm not in the mall. I'm outside, but I noticed that the other day. I was like, that's really funny. Anyway.
So you the seed was planted for like a salon.
I think being your own boss made sense.
Being your own boss, okay.
It's kind of funny if you really reverse engineer it, but like entertaining people and having a home base of my own, I think that's fascinating to think about how I got there. Agreed. So yeah, nurturing people. Yeah.
So what was the next step?
After Saks? Yeah. Oh, God, I did a lot. When I was at Saks, I became a professional cheerleader. Okay. So that was really fun. My boss at the time, who was also like my boyfriend's mom, she was like, they're having this audition for dancers. I think you need to do it. And I had just finished like a cheerleading career in high school where I did all these teams. I was on like 3 teams at once, did this whole thing. I was like, okay, I'll do it. And it was a really good way for me to channel my energy and to reinforce discipline. Because I had my regular job that I needed to make money. The professional dancing doesn't make you very much money. It's more of a passion project.
Okay.
And it was a phiscal exercise. So through all of that trauma that I was going through, at this time I was still testifying in court against my mom.
Wow.
Yeah, they found her. She was on the run, and then they found her, and so then it was like I was testifying in court, and then I was at Saks, and I would have to leave to go testify. Or the case is really interesting. So one time I came home, and the FBI was there, and we were like, we want to talk to you. I'm like, what the hell do you mean? It was just crazy. And then I would go to Saks and be in like this other world where people shop in a secret room that you don't even know about. One day somebody showed me, I'm like, really?
Oh
My God, it was the coolest. It's beautiful. You walk behind like these secret doors, and then there you are in the world where like magic happens apparently.
Right.
So it was interesting. And I think it was a character building season for me for sure.
Yeah.
I really showed myself that I can like endure a lot.
Yeah.
That I have a lot of stamina, and that I wanted a lot for myself, and that was okay. So kind of interesting.
Yeah. You came out definitely on top, but I wonder how long it's like. Just right now it seemed like it happened relatively quickly, but like how long did it take to really get over it? Yeah.
Ooh, I swear. Let's see, how old am I now? I think 15 years.
Yeah.
To really get it, like that affected you in a great way. That's totally acceptable.
Right.
I think for a lot of time in the situation where I was raised, it was like, you don't have feelings, you don't acknowledge those feelings, you don't need to feel those feelings, you just need to move on.
Yeah.
And there is an element of that, you know, that's helpful, but then you're alienating a part that you really do need to process what you experience.
Right.
Because it shapes everything else that you experience going forward.
So then are you still in contact with your mom?
I haven't talked to my mom in 20 years.
20 years.
20 years.
Now, do you feel like there was any closure?
I think it was a decision that I made based on behavior and interactions that we had where that wasn't a place that could be trusted. It just wasn't. So I thought about this the other day when I saw my brother for Thanksgiving. It was one of the first times I went home for Thanksgiving. I was like, this is so delightful. God, you don't have to be a gangster by yourself all the time, lady. Seriously.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is really delightful. And I said, what would you think if that would have still been our life? Like, imagine what could have been different, because then you would have still been just wrapped around chaos. Because that, from what I learned about my family system and their stories before they were parents to me, is like, you know, a person had a whole entire life before you, and all that shaped them.
Yeah.
You know, it's not always all about us at all.
No.
But it's like up to us to kind of process that experience and say, what can I do with this?
Interesting.
So.
What if you didn't have those jobs? You didn't have an outlet to experience the other side of the world of what could be, you know?
Who knows?
Yeah.
You know? Who knows?
So with the professional dancing, after that, what made you decide to move to Chicago?
It's a juicy one.
Oh, wait, was it a boy?
No.
Or, it wasn't a boy. Okay, never mind.
A boy did come here with me, but that's never the story anyone expects. I'm like, well, just wait. No, I actually had my dance coach for the team that I danced for passed away suddenly, having her baby.
Oh, wow.
And she was, I don't know, she was like mid-30s at the time, if I can remember. Super healthy, super in shape. So it was just one of those experiences where I was like, holy shit, Jen, life is so short. I was at an amazing job with amazing people. I was working at a spa at that time. So I had gone back to beauty school after Saks. After Saks, I worked in hotels for a while. I loved that.
Wow.
They have their own underworld.
Oh.
Everybody works in a different department, but everyone has different vibes. It's just really cool. But I went to beauty school because I knew I wanted to be a practitioner.
Okay.
Like, I knew I wanted to help people, and I knew at the time I wanted it one-on-one. So I just must have instinctually known that. And then after I got a job at this spa that was like the best, beautiful, everything was a detail on purpose for a reason. And I loved that. And the owner always came in and switched it up all the time. So I think I picked that trade up from her, like really tapped into it. And she was a tough boss. She was tough. And I made really great friends there that have stayed with me since.
Good.
But I was making a great amount of money.
Yeah.
Building up this clientele, and something inside of me, Caroline died, and I was like, oh my God, life is short. And something inside of me said, you need to just move on for a while. I don't know if it's forever, but you need to go and explore and see the world.
Did you feel stagnant?
I did.
Okay.
I felt like I was going to get used to that money, used to that schedule, because everything books in advance.
Yeah.
It was a blessing, but I was like, then you'll never leave. You'll never know. And I knew I needed to know. So I came up here originally, was going to dance and figure it out. I didn't know anyone here. I didn't have a job here. I had just been here on vacation before for like 4 days. I'm like, well, it's New York or Chicago, and New York felt like maybe you're going to die.
Oh.
Like maybe you will not make it, lady. Don't get crazy. And so I said, Chicago it is. I think I picked out an apartment on Craigslist. Like, that was the time. You know, this was like 11 years ago. And I came up here and it felt right away.
Oh, wow.
Right away. It was so funny when I was working at the spa before I came, everyone was like, you need to go to the marathon. The marathon in Chicago is the best day. I'm like, that's so interesting. Okay, cool.
The marathon? What's
I'll go to the marathon. The Chicago Marathon.
Oh, the Chicago Marathon.
Yeah. So get this. When I move up here, it's the week of the marathon. Not planned that way.
That's hectic.
It was amazing. I mean, it was like, you know, we got up here and then we had like 2 days maybe to unpack before that.
Right.
This was the beginning stages. So I woke up. My brother came with me too at the time, and we woke up, got Bailey's and coffee in the morning. At that time, I used to drink, and we went downstairs, and it was the best vibes ever. Now it's my tradition. I go every year. I usually go by myself, and I just go and I pick up on the vibes of strangers cheering for strangers for no other reason than to send them love. And I'm like overwhelmed by it every time. I cry almost every time, I'm sure.
You should just volunteer. I did it this year.
I know. I just don't.
And you give everyone high fives.
I know. I kind of do that anyway. Okay. So I feel like I don't want too many more positions that I have to do.
Yeah.
Because I'm really learning like to balance my time.
Right.
Because there's so many things that I could be doing and that I like to do. I have to be so careful about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then you moved, and then how did the dancing thing pan out?
Oh, that's so interesting that you asked.
Yeah.
So I moved here, and I'm 26, and I started dancing for a professional sports team here. Mm-hmm. Like, they had auditions 2 months or so after I moved. I was like, oh my God, that'll be a great way for me to make friends.
Yeah.
That's kind of the path that I had done before. So I did that. I got in like the best shape ever. Oh. It's very big in that world. You have to really be a certain look. Sure. I remember getting sat down, and I was in really like pretty good shape for what I thought, 26 or whatever. And the coach is like, you know what? We totally love your personality. We just think your body looks a little dumpy. I was like, dumpy? That's a fascinating feedback. What the fuck does that mean? You know?
Well, thanks. Okay.
Thank you so much for that one. That was helpful. But I did end up getting in like really good shape, and I was working out and doing all the things. And 2 weeks before the home opener, I snapped my ACL.
Oh.
Doing the best high kick of my life. So I went out on top in my own mind. I did it, and it was so weird because I never had that. I've broken a lot of bones actually throughout my life, but it was so loud, but it didn't hurt when it happened. Oh. And then I was like, I'm kind of unstable. So I sat down for a minute, and I was like, no, let's do another dance. Let's do another run through, because we were in practice. Like, people want to go. They have jobs. It's like 9 at night. I was like, let's do another run through. That was my instinct. I got up and I was like, never mind.
Oh.
This thing's broken. But the crazy part is, the next day I was going on a trip to Colorado for the first time for my birthday. Oh. I was supposed to go skiing and do all the things. I was like, well, I'm not turning down a trip. I was limping. I didn't know what I had done. I just knew I did something not great. Wow. So I went on the trip. Oh. And by flying, made my leg like Nutty Professor. I was like, damn, that might have been a bad idea. But I went up and down the ski lift and like enjoyed myself. I went to the top of a mountain. It was beautiful.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so I made the most of it. But when I got home and did the surgery, and it's like 9 months to recover at that time. Okay. It was the most interesting thing. I was like, okay, you're done with the pom-poms. Like, you did it. Good job. You did a really great job. You did all the things. But you're done. There's something else for you. And I said, okay. So that was
that's what was going through your mind? It wasn't like no sulking, no like, what am I going to do now?
Hell no. I was working in 2 weeks with a full brace, RoboCop brace on my leg is what I like to call it. Wow. where you have to move it click by click every time you go to therapy 3 times a week. And I would be walking around the salon like, why are people not cleaning up? Why are the candles not lit? Why is there not a vibe? What are you doing? Why does it smell like a hamburger? Like, it drove me insane. So no, I think working on something and like building something was always.
Were you at a salon as well? Oh, that was your day job in Chicago?
Yeah, I was at a salon at that time. When I first moved here, I worked so many jobs.
Okay.
So many. I worked a lot of waitressing jobs, a lot of salon jobs, just kind of bouncing around. But when I had the ACL surgery and I was kind of forced to slow down is when I thought of the idea for my business. So I said, thank you.
Yeah.
That's what that was for.
You're like the 4th or 5th guest that like something traumatic, like a traumatic injury happened, and then it was like a course correction in there.
A pivot. I love to call them pivots.
Right.
I just continually see myself doing that. So I had time to sit there and work on a computer and like say, oh, you know what would make me feel good? If somebody could come to my house and give me a tan. So I had just started learning about spray tans when I started dancing here. Because I didn't need to worry about those too much before. We did them in Florida a little, but not that much because we were tanned from outside.
Yeah.
When I came here, I'm like, whoa, what do people do? So I just didn't feel like myself. I'd never seen myself look pale. It's like, who's this girl? And funny enough, I end up starting a business, growing that from going to people's homes on the bus and the train.
Yeah.
Even at times, so after I had my ACL surgery, 9 months later, I started dancing again and like could move again and do all the things I was doing. And 6 months later, I broke my foot, my other foot, because your body like has to compensate.
Oh, wow.
So the other leg was holding so much weight while the other one was learning how to be a leg again. I was like, no way. So I would have to go on the bus and the train with a boot. And at that time, I worked at a restaurant. So I would go during the day, do all my tans with my boot on, go to the restaurant, stand up and bartend all day.
What?
Yeah, it's weird. It's just always been like, oh, okay, that's what we're doing now.
And you're just powering through.
Mm-hmm.
And this is pre-social media.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you obtain your first couple clients?
It was always word of mouth for the longest time, for years. I would go and tan you, and you would like it, and you would tell your friend, and your friend would like it, and she would go to the office and tell her friends. I always knew if I could just get in groups of people. Yeah.
Their networks.
If they loved it, then they would tell a friend, and if they didn't, then I didn't deserve it. Sorry.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I thought, and then I worked at a tapas bar so I would work at one bar during the summer and then one bar during like the winter. And I worked at a tapas bar, and that's when I learned to get groups of ladies. So I would be back behind the bar. I wasn't the greatest bartender, but I was a good talker to people. So my bartender friends would always pimp me out. They're like, you go make us the money and we'll make the drinks. I'm like, that is so fair.
Oh, look at that.
I loved that because I could never remember the ratios. Like math is not my specialty. So I utilized my natural given skills. And that's when I kind of learned, you need to find groups of people because you can grow faster if more people know about you at one time.
Right.
So that really served me well. And I would work all hours of the night. I would work at some bars until 4 a.m. Yeah. Go home, wind down, go to sleep at 8, get up, do tans from 11 to 1. Oh. And then my mommy clients were my morning clients. So then they would go and do pickups and all that stuff. So then I would have a break where I could sleep. Then I would work a night shift doing tans because people wanted tans after work. And I was going from one house. I had it strategized, but I could go all over the city in one day. And then I would go work a bar job at night. So the first, a few years of my business, I slept like 4 hours a night. Oh. Yeah, it was brutal.
So what made you power through? The fact that you knew that you were doing something that you loved, or you knew like you had the foresight that you were building something big eventually? Because you got to hold on to something to get you through those tough times, especially. Yeah. And you said that I was lugging some, this isn't much, right? So
you're lugging your bags. I'm like, great setup. Yeah. So easy to carry.
What was your setup?
It was a rolling suitcase. So I had a different one that I would get from like a TJ Maxx or a Ross. The tip. Yeah. It was those, and then it was a tan tent, which was like a circle thing. Okay. So I would just go up and down. I wish I would have clocked my miles at that time, because now I clock miles for my body for my walking. Who knows how long I've been doing this damn walking? You know?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure, but I mean, up and down the train platform, and I was always on time. And that was before there was like MapQuest. I can't remember how I would figure out directions and
you're not from
stuff.
here, so it's like,
no,
yeah.
It was an adventure. I was figuring it all out. I was meeting new people. I was going into beautiful buildings.
Right.
Where I was like, oh, yeah.
Inspo, yeah.
It was major inspo of like, you can have this life, do one more person, work that one more hour or whatever. So it's funny how life leads you.
Now, but did you wanted to have a home base, though? You didn't want to do that forever.
Yeah, I knew eventually I wanted to have a home base. Financially, I could reach more people if I had a home base. And I knew I wanted my own place because I would always pick out the problems wherever I was.
It's because it's more, you can control it more. Just like, if we were in my office, everything's controlled, everything's already set up. Whereas like you need some time to figure out, you'll catch things. Yeah,
and I wanted to set the kind of vibe that I wanted to work in.
Okay.
That was really important to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I did know I always wanted to have a home base. So then I started renting inside of different salons, inside of different gyms.
Yeah.
I had a friend who's like, we have this room. Could you use it? So I was like, I'll use that on Thursday nights, baby. I'll be in the Wicker Park every Thursday. Catch me on the regular. So then I started setting up more regularity for myself versus being like, I'll go anywhere at any time.
Right.
Which I still did, but it was like I was figuring out that there was different ways to make it all keep making more sense. So I would do that. My friend's like, I have this room in a gym, and it was like a glorified closet. I'm like, perfect.
Oh.
This other salon in Lincoln Park was like, we have this area that used to be like a pedicure area, and we made it a room. It was like a closet.
I mean, if that's all you need.
Yeah.
But like, who reached out to who? Like, did they know of that Jenn was running around? Or
people knew because I was at every networking event, every women's group.
Okay.
Yeah, you're making me remember this now, which is cool. I'm like, I don't know. How did they? But people would tell people. So, that was powerful for me. And there was no other way. There was no Instagram. There wasn't even Facebook in the beginning. So, yeah, word of mouth was what's up. And my dad was not only a preacher in the town that he's in, but he was like the town mechanic. So he had an auto body shop. So I would go there and sit in the grease and drink coffee when I was like 10 years old. Drink coffee, listen to Christian music, and like watch him work on cars.
Yeah.
Which is hard work.
Right.
It's it's like really good
I'm sure
grind.
he gets lost in the sauce too. Just like if that's what he loves. Like.
No, he would get pissed at the cars. He would
okay.
get pissed at the cars because they weren't working. Yeah. No, he would get pissed. I think I would get lost in the songs. Yeah. Which is kind of funny.
So what would you recommend for girls or guys that want to get into this space right now? It just seems like a very logical step of doing the travel tans and stuff. I was going to ask like why tans, but it makes sense why tans now. But starting from traveling and doing out calls and then eventually renting space and then saving enough dough to have your own space. Would you recommend? I mean, now it's a little easy. I'm sure it's easier with Uber or if you have your own car and whatnot.
Oh yeah, I mean, just start your own business. You mean in that kind of way, mobile to like a storefront space?
Yeah, like what's the first step if someone wanted to get into the industry? If they wanted to step out on their own and not, or would you recommend working under someone who's already established?
I think there's so many ways you can approach it. It depends on you and what feels most comfortable to you.
Right.
Like we have a licensing program, so we license our brand name to other people who want to open up shops that are similar to ours. And that's one way to do it. If you know, like, I want to do it, but I don't want to figure it all out myself. I want to have a support system. I want to have people to bounce ideas off of, but I still want it to be my own business. So that for us works really well. But some people will go and take out a bunch of capital, which is totally fine. It's all in like what you feel comfortable with.
Right.
For me, growing up the way that I did, when you hide money under your mattress, like that never seemed to be the step for me. But I think it works for a lot of people. Yeah. So I think it's like really about knowing yourself and knowing what you want. I even had someone tell me the other day, you could be huge if you weren't afraid to go take on money, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't necessarily my goal. Right. My goal is to collaborate and work with people and help another person build a life for them like I did for myself. Yeah. And wherever that scales to is wherever that scales to. But like, I also appreciate being honest with myself and saying, hey, lady, you don't want to be millions of dollars in debt. That's just not your vibe.
Right.
So I've kind of carved out my own way. I think for people, it's how do you know yourself? Are you comfortable with debt? Do you want a lot of debt? Or do you want to chip away at it over the course of years? And it's just two different perspectives, neither right or wrong.
Right.
You know?
So you've established yourself, and before you expanded to your first other, started licensing, what were your options to grow?
I mean, we had grown in capacity for tans of what I could do myself.
Yeah.
And what our staff could do and what our capacity for the space we were at could do. So the next step it's so funny that you asked me that. The next step would have been open another location here.
Okay.
But the opportunities have always come to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I never even really have put it out there much that we have a program like this. It's always just happened naturally.
Okay.
So as I was kind of building this one-stop shop model, another friend of mine through the dance world, at this time now I was dancing West Coast Swing. After my dancing cheer career, I started, can I tell you the story?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So I saw a flyer. This is so funny because I'm remembering it now as I'm telling you. I saw a flyer on a church downtown. Not like Holy Name. It's downtown in the Gold Coast. I'm going to find it later.
Okay.
And they know. I saw a flyer for dance classes, and it was like $100 for, I think, 3 classes at night, 1 night a week. So for 4 weeks, I'm like, I was dying to dance again. I hadn't danced in a long time. I knew it was not pro dancing anymore. Like, I wasn't interested in doing that. My next step would have been to go for the bulls, and I knew the time commitment. And I knew what I was going to get out of it. It's the same type of routines. It feels the same.
Right.
It's group choreography. You know, I knew what it would feel like. I'm like, no, I've done that already. So I walk by this church, and I see this sign, and it's $100. And at the time, I'm telling you, I'm so broke. I have no money. And my dad later asked me, what did I want for Christmas? And I was like, actually, I want to take these classes that start in January and just see where it goes. And I think it was the Foxtrot.
Okay.
One was the Foxtrot, West Coast Swing. It might have been just those. No, there was one more. I'm not going to remember. And he's like, okay, so he sends me $100 bill in the mail in an envelope.
Oh, wow.
My dad is a super macho dude, so he sometimes he misses some of the details, so he'll just send it in a white envelope with a piece of notebook paper wrapped around it. I'm like, okay. It's very funny. For Christmas, sometimes he would give us money, and he would always give us money, like $20. So he'd give it to me in an alligator, like a plastic alligator's mouth.
That's
I'm
funny.
like, okay. Anyway, so he gave me that, and I started taking these partner dancing classes, and I started doing West Coast Swing. I'd never done partner dancing, really. I did a little salsa, and it wasn't my jam. I didn't like it. I didn't connect with the music in the way I needed to. For me, it just wasn't my thing. So I take West Coast Swing, which is to blues music or pop music, which is my jam. You can dance it to a lot. And I was like, oh, damn, I like this dance. I loved it. I loved dancing with a partner. It was a whole language that I didn't know.
Right.
I didn't know anything. It's very much having a conversation with a person, reacting to what they hear in the music, what you hear in the music, and shaping your body to make it a conversational kind of thing. So I was like, oof, that's very nice. So I kind of got into that after. But I found the flyer on a church, which is funny. I need to go back and see what that kind of means.
How did you come across, like, oh, maybe I should license? Like, what were your other options besides licensing?
I don't know. That was the option to me.
Okay.
Sometimes I can be like tunnel vision.
Okay.
And I've always been able to visualize how things would work and then work backwards.
Okay.
I've always been able to do that. I didn't really know
that have a destination in mind and reverse engineer.
Just always.
Okay.
And I was always a big visualizer, but I don't think I realized what kind of skill set that really was until recently.
Okay.
Where I'm like, wow, I can visualize an experience in my mind, and then I can create it.
Yeah.
You know? So to me, that was the next best thing. I knew I wanted more locations. I wanted more reach. But I didn't necessarily want to be the one signing all the leases. And I knew that I really had a strength as a mentor and as a coach type of personality.
Was it hard to let go? Like, it's like, to micromanage, right?
Yeah.
Or like, it's your name, or I guess, Glowout, right? You came up with it, so it's like, it's your baby, and you want people to do it justice.
Yes. In the beginning, it was.
Okay.
And let's see. I've been life coaching. I've had a coach for 7 years. And I started licensing 5 years ago.
Okay.
So this is 2 years into my being coached. So in the beginning, yeah, as I think about it now, it was a challenge. I was worried, but I had all these other things that I was dealing with and working through and kind of learning about myself. And now it's absolutely like, no, everything's fine. Everything's aligned. I know whether or not it feels good to work with somebody. I absolutely trust that the person that I work with will work in a similar manner, which I would. It doesn't have to be carbon copy because they're going to put their own on it.
Yeah.
And now I just kind of let it happen the way it's supposed to.
Okay.
And figure I'll learn something from it regardless. But I really did learn through coaching how to surrender and realize that you're really not in control of much. No.
The first expansion was to the north suburbs.
No, the first expansion was to South Carolina.
It was South Carolina.
Yeah. And it was at the same time that I was doing a remodel at my space and like going from just tanning to all the other services.
Okay.
Which I'd always been exposed to the other services, so it was a natural fit, and I did some of them.
Yeah.
So I'm like, no, this will make sense. But the first time we expanded was from here to South Carolina, which was so fun and so challenging because you're in another state. We didn't really know how to do it, like myself and my partners, but it was awesome because we learned it together. And now to see them thriving 5 years later, I'm like, well, we did something right.
So how did that spark? Like, did you go down there seeking someone who was interested?
No. It's always come. So we would go. Dang. That's where the dancing ties in. We got back to it. I met them through the West Coast Swing World at these dance events. And myself and Leanne, who's one of the owners down there, it's her and her husband.
Okay.
And I just fell in love with them. They're literally the most darling people. And her and I shared an interest for beauty, and we shared an interest for business of like loving every detail that goes into designing the space to curating the flow of the space. So we would go on these beauty tours, which is now a thing that I do with people. We would go to different cities and visit for 2 or 3 days and like go to coffee shops, boutiques,
that's very
salons, restaurants, and really just observe and see what we loved about the experience we received and how we could morph that into an experience. So I think the universe brought them to me perfectly on time.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it was awesome. And we got to learn together and really go through a lot of building phases together. And it wasn't for a couple years that I was ready to do it again, only because like my personal life had taken a turn. As I was growing my business, I got married. And then after getting married, I got really sick. And then going through like healing myself, I realized that I didn't want to be married anymore.
Oh, wow.
So it's like,
it's got to be tough to be an entrepreneur and try to find time, make time to take care of yourself.
That was a big lesson.
Others if you're in a relationship.
Yeah, and then also for me, it was like redefining what does a relationship look like now? Because the model that I was raised in, and I didn't really realize this until I started coaching, was absolutely outdated for the life that I felt like I wanted. Okay. But sometimes you don't know what you're subconsciously doing. Yeah. And that you're following a path where you're like, this is probably not going to end the way I want it to end. Just because you're attracting into your life what you know based on patterns and behaviors that you're around. Right. So I think it's so fascinating. It was one of the best lessons of my life. The best. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no failures. It's all lessons.
I don't believe in failures.
Right.
I really don't. It's interesting too because the world, especially when my experience around divorce, the world like then all of a sudden you are divorced, and I'm like, well, that's weird. I feel like that was an experience that I went through, but I don't feel like that's my new me. Right. That's who I am now. Oh no, I don't think so.
A lot of people let that get to them.
Dude, it's hard. Yeah. It's hard. I'm so thankful that I'd been coaching for so many years before that, receiving coaching, that I was able to just put it all in perspective all the time. Of like, this is only here to help you, so what's the lesson, lady? And I've taken like the last 3 years to really, I've been divorced, the whole process almost about 3 years now, but to really look at it and be like, well, what could you learn from that? And I learned so much. Okay. So, yeah.
And then, so the rest of your expansions were
South
natural
Carolina,
as well?
Yeah, those were natural. It was either a client or a friend or somebody.
So they would, and I've read reviews, like they would come here, like Chicago's very tourist friendly. So they would stop by and then fell in love with what you had to offer, what you've created.
Our licensees?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
Is
like
that how that happened?
I built relationships with them. At first they were clients.
Yeah.
They were clients for years and
Wow.
just loved the experience and loved the atmosphere. One thing that we do that's really special is whenever you meet the girls, you'll understand we have an atmosphere of like utter kindness. And it can't be fabricated and it can't be inauthentic or it won't work for me.
Yeah.
But like you have got to be kind to everyone you meet and you have to want to be that way.
And can you sense that in an hour interview?
Now I can. But an interview is never an hour with me. It's like 5 interviews.
Oh,
I don't know what to say about it. I want to see, are you going to stick it out? And I'm not trying to like haze anyone or do anything like that. Just come the first time. You may have your mask on and you think you're saying what I need. And what I really want is to know what are your real goals.
Right.
So I can help you get there. Even if it's, I just want to stay here for a year and build my resume. Say it up front.
Right.
Let me know. I feel like I can't find that out until it's several meetings. Meet with the girls, then meet with me, then come and work with us for a few hours. How does it feel?
Yeah.
Because I know myself and I know what I'll expect from someone, so make sure that aligns with you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be transparent about it.
Yeah.
So that's really served me well. In the beginning, I didn't have that skill set. I didn't know how to manage people.
Mm-hmm.
I knew how to be a beast.
Yeah, for yourself.
I'm talking a beast. I mean, I could work for years with no breaks, all the things that are not, I don't want to glorify that either, but that's what I knew. So working with people, you have to realize like everybody has a different capacity, lady.
Exactly.
Tone it the fuck down.
Yeah.
Like chill out. And so that was when I really got into learning people.
Oh.
Learning people. I felt like I was always connecting with people for my whole life up until then.
Yeah.
That's when I moved into more an observatory kind of way of like, let me see what they're saying without saying it.
Yeah.
You know?
Interesting.
And then see if it's a fit and see if I can be of help.
Right.
Because I do always want to be of help. I think I got that from the church world.
Yeah.
That was ingrained in me. I thought about this the other day. I went to Kanye's Sunday service when I was in LA.
Oh, how was that?
I don't know, dude.
How was that?
That was amazing. It was amazing. It was 3 hours. 3 hours of like absolute, I don't know, transcendence to another world because of the production quality that they put in that, how talented all the singers are. Music can be very moving.
Right.
I study like binaural beats and sound vibrations.
Oh, wow.
I'm really into how music can affect the body.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we could really dork out on that for a while. I'm like, you're listening to that. Do you know it's making your body feel like chaos? You know? But it was a beautiful experience. No stone left unturned. There was all of these beautiful plants and flowers. You were like, you came in and the lighting was so perfect. When we were messing with the lighting today, I was like, ooh, I could change up the lighting. It could be even better.
Right.
For real.
Right.
And so that's on my list. But you walked in and you hear birds chirping, right? And then you see all the trees and it's maybe a little bit dark and it's dark and moody. And I was just like, oh my God, thank you. But then you're sitting next to like the beavers. I'm like, what the hell is this?
What?
It was so cool. And then his daughter's like running around, which I thought was very cool because I remember being a little girl in church.
Oh.
And in church, even though we were in a stadium, it was in the Forum in Inglewood, which is also kind of rad. But in church, there's like a safety there where like people are not going to mess with you in church.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So it was just an interesting experience. You could tell that he was absolutely 100% into that in the most creative way. You know when you're into your shit.
Yeah.
He was into it.
He's flowing.
And you can't not respect that, and you can't not jump on board. Like the worship singers, I was like, oh my God.
So have you gone to like a Tony Robbins seminar?
Yes.
Same like
love. I'm sorry. It's all for me. I'm gonna own it today here. I love Tony Robbins. I'd followed him for years.
Okay.
So I bought. This is funny. I bought the ticket for his event because I'm a notorious saver.
Yeah.
I like to save my money. I like to see it. So I don't necessarily buy a lot of things or all the time do a lot of things. That's why I love being able to travel now. I'm still not paying for it. So for me and my like the way that I was raised, my money mindset, I'm like, no, that has to be a job, whatever. But I was sitting home 2 years ago or last year, I can't remember.
Yeah.
And it was Christmas Day or Christmas Eve, and I was like, I was kind of bummed because it was all by myself. And I'm like, well, It's all good. Like Thanksgiving was fine. I had done a couple, holidays by myself after I got divorced. But Christmas I was like, oh, damn, feels a little weird.
Yeah.
But whatever. I pepped myself up. I did the thing. And then they threw up on Instagram like a special, buy one, get one free. I was like, you know what, lady? This is what credit cards are for. and I sat there and talked to myself. I'm like, you can do it. It wasn't a crazy amount of money. It wasn't unbelievable amount of money. I just didn't spend. I didn't have that
kind of money.
I didn't have that relationship with money either, which now it's different.
Yeah.
But I bit the bullet. I bought it, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. Then a couple months later, they did another freaking special where it was like, if you can trade in your ticket to bring someone else. It's like all how they market. They're so genius.
Right.
So I ended up bringing one of my girls from here who had been with me forever. I'm like, this is your bonus for working with me. I think at the time it was 4 years or something. And it was just the best experience.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like neither one of us had been around that. She's in a stadium in the United Center. She's from the South Side, a single mom, a teenage mom early on. And I wanted her to experience that. I always want to share experiences with people.
Yeah.
It's like my thing. It was awesome. The first night though, you go and you do all of this prepping to get to this fire walk where you walk on fire.
I heard.
Okay. My dad doesn't know this. My dad thought it was a cult. He's like, it's a cult. Why does she have to go to Tony Robbins? He's brainwashing her. I'm like, so does the church. But anyway, that was like a whole other thing. I hate to tell you, but he can't really hear that information. So I go, and you go like 13 hours. Like I never saw him even stop to go to the bathroom. You would be like, when do we go to the bathroom? And it's freezing in there. I think they keep you alert because it's freezing. They give you gloves in your like bag with your things. And so it's like we would just make it run for it to go to the bathroom, and because you didn't want to miss anything because he is so engaging where you're like, damn, this guy is a beast. He went like, I swear to God, 15 hours.
Oh, wow.
I don't know when he went to the bathroom. Anyway, you're building up to this fire walk at the end of the night, and they're just like in your head, getting you prepped.
Oh, wow.
And we go down, you leave all your stuff, because I think they're like, if you have your bag, you're completely run from the parking lot and leave, which is tempting. But you leave your stuff there, and you walk down, and everyone's chanting, yes, 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 right?
Wow.
And I was thinking to myself, damn, girl, feels a little culty, but I love it. But I dig it.
Okay.
And we got down, and they had primed you and told you this thing, look here, do this, don't go fast. Like, you want to keep the pace. That's how you burn yourself. And you did it, and I was like, God, I'm a bad bitch. I'm a bad bitch. And it really does something to your mind.
Okay.
And I think that's purposeful, and I know they have a lot of science to back what they do. And I'm like, well, that's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm a Tony fan. I love what they do. Have you seen his documentary?
Yeah.
Did you like it?
I liked it. I don't have, I could probably save up for it, but I don't have, the dough right now to go out to one. But yeah, I don't know how much, I've read his books too. It's like, I don't know, like, I'm sure it's a complete night and day between reading his books and going there.
Immersion or like immersive experiences, they change you because you're around that so much, no distractions. You're focused on something specific. It's hard to not really engage.
Right.
And they use sound, they use music, they use lighting to really, and
they get you moving too.
Yeah, I met this friend on a plane recently, my friend Tom. Hi, Tom. I'll tell him to watch. Who I was talking to Tony. I was talking to him about Tony, and he was like, I don't know. I was like, is it the dancing and the dancing around that's got you? And he's like, kind of. I'm like, I totally get it. I was like, do you know why they do it? And he said, why? I said, so that your body never gets into a low vibration state.
Yeah.
You'll sit there and be reading information, taking notes, doing an exercise with a stranger about your childhood traumas and shit. And it's like, whoa. And then you got to keep it moving. Because if not, you're going to sit there and be depressed. But it's really interesting because I think it's like a very cool tool that they use to manage your emotions to get to a certain
motion
response.
creates emotion.
Yeah.
Right. That's cool. And then I'm sure you've taken some of that away and try to recreate that immersive experience everywhere you've gone.
Yeah. And now I host retreats like that for companies, just to kind of, depends on what their goal is, but to pull their team together or to work on a specific thing or to motivate them. We'll talk and do exercises to kind of get into their self-awareness or personal development, and that's been really fun too.
Yeah. Is that the Babes Behind Brands?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Dude, I have so many jobs that I needed a way, even for myself. I was like, you need to be your own thing.
Right.
You're your own thing. Right. I'm coaching people, coaching groups, flying all over. That's its own thing. And then all of the practices that I kind of use to build my best self is what I like to translate there. And I have a partner that I work with on that. That's the best.
Yeah.
It's a really fun experience. If not, I felt like people are like, I get this question a lot. They're like, what do you do? I'm like, whatever it takes. That's it. Literally. I coach people, and I learned that it's better to do it walking, because if you're sitting stagnant, like, and they're sifting through something that's maybe emotionally tough, then it's like stuck.
Yeah.
But if we walk, we can move through it faster and get to an answer faster.
Yeah.
And then you're still moving that negative energy along, and you're kind of producing positive energy. So it's just been an interesting thing to play with.
You like the urban hiking? You don't prefer the mountains or anything?
Oh, I love the mountains. I don't live in them.
Oh, I know.
Urban hiking is me making the best of
concrete mountains, but
it's making me make the best of my environment. Ideally, I think soon in life, I'll probably live closer to nature or have some type of partial situation where I visit nature a lot. That's become really important. So all of my retreats, I plan them depending on where they are, right? Like, I don't know who's going to call and be like, can you come help us? I recently had a business in South Dakota, and I was like, oh, cool, what's in South Dakota? So I always like to find like a national park close by or something beautiful in nature. The Badlands.
Yeah.
I said, no shit.
Yeah.
The Badlands. So I went on a hike, pray, love trip with myself.
Oh.
It was very awesome because
wow.
I went to the Badlands first, which was like 4 hours from my destination.
Okay.
And I would tell people I was gearing up for my trip, and I was getting so excited because I was going to go on my first round of solo hiking, like in the mountains, in the Badlands, which is kind of crazy because the Badlands are gangster. There's so many elements. It's like crazy out there. And I have this whole thing with buffalo, and there's a lot of buffalo out there. I used an analogy about how buffaloes manage storms in a keynote that I did in Vegas a couple of years ago. And then all these people bought buffalo shit. And I was like, oh my God, amazing. That's your new spirit animal. So it's almost like, I don't know, kind of creating with the energy around me. But anyway, the point. I went to the Badlands on this solo hiking adventure before I did my retreat. Because I was like, you know what? I want to go and connect with nature and have nature tell me what to teach these girls. I know intuitively, and I had talked to the business owner of like, let's get a read of kind of what you want to work on, and then I'm going to go ask Mother Nature's ass, and then we're going to get to it. And I did, and it was magic. I connected, and I said, you know, what am I supposed to help them with? Like, what am I supposed to learn? And you know what I found? It said, the mountains, go where your energy is received and appreciated. And these people had just become like a new unit. They were all solo providers. They had their own businesses.
Right.
And they were coming together to work out of this communal space. And I was like, that's what they did. So it was kind of special.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes me think of this. So did you feel like you had some level of mastery to other parts of Glowout besides the tanning?
Yeah, because I'd always been around them. I'd always been around the hair element. My first job when I had my RoboCop brace was at a blowout bar. Okay. And that was just when blowouts were starting. So that was 11 years ago. And it was awesome, but I'm like, I could do so much more. Gotta try more. So the owner of that was kind of really, really, really hands off. And sometimes I think people do a disservice getting into a service-based business thinking they can be hands off when you need to be hands-on. You need to see things as they change and adapt in the moment.
As the operator, as the owner? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, you can delegate and have the business run itself for sure. Yeah. But you have to be close to it to a certain extent. Yeah. I think to really keep it going and to maintain a certain standard, like what we were talking about before, how do I not worry about that? I'm always around. Yeah. I'm always around. So, I'm always in my business. But I'd been in that back in the day when I was at Saks. I was around hair and nails and massage and skin. So I was always around a lot of different services. Right. So I knew spray tans are busy certain days of the week, and then certain days of the week they're not at all. Right. Blowouts are busy certain days of the week, and certain times they're not at all. So I was just piecing together, like, what are the things that people in the city go to all these different places that they're maybe not like totally drawn to that place forever, that we could put in one place and make it really convenient. And then create an environment where they want to sit here and have coffee. Right. And maybe work on their computer or maybe meet up with a friend. Yeah. So that's like one of my favorite things because I think when I really look at it, it's fostering connection. Yeah, exactly. So how'd you come across masters at their craft? How did I? Yeah. That would be like surveying. That would be all my beauty tours for years that I've done for like 6 or 7 years. Every time I travel, that's naturally what I want to do. Okay. Is like go and experience other people's business and how it works. And so were they at like
other salons at the time, and you were like, I'm building the Avengers of the beauty world?
No, I would just go and see who's the best in the city.
Oh,
like if I went
okay.
to New York, I would go and see who was the best in places that I wanted to go, and also look at the aesthetics. Was I inspired by it? Was it something I wanted to kind of sit in and feel and see what I could take from it? So I've naturally always wanted to do that.
Have you ever hired someone that didn't work out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my God. Yes.
So at what point do you draw the line? At what point are they uncoachable?
That's a hard question,
Yeah.
dude. I'm still figuring that out every day of my life because it's so layered. Are they uncoachable, or are you not seeing something that you
Or maybe
can
they're going through
tap
something
into?
in their personal life,
It's hard to know. It's very hard to know, and it's a really fine line of like, where do you draw the line between boss and a mentor and a friendship type of personality?
And when you're so transparent with them, that's the hardest part, right?
It's tricky, but I gotta be me.
Yeah.
So I have learned now to really be very slow with any relationship.
Okay.
Any type.
Yeah.
I don't want to rush it. There's no reason. So I just take my time getting to know people and really see, like, would we like working together? Would I help you in your life, and would you help me in mine? If not, it's not the right fit. Friendship, marriage, relationship, family, business.
Right.
That's just how I see it.
Right.
So yeah, it was a challenge in the beginning. Like I said, I know I was a beast. I was the only mode that I knew. I realized I had PTSD when I was like 18. I went to my first therapist. I've only gone to a therapist twice. And then I was like, yeah, I was like, fuck you people. Like, you're telling me what I know. Thank you. Yes, I get it. Right. I need tools.
Yeah.
So I stopped doing that. I went twice, and she was like, well, this is from this, this, and this. I'm like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. When are we going to get to this shit that I don't know so I can fix it? And it was like, well, we'll have to keep talking about it. Lady, I already lived it.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep talking about it to death. We can talk about it if you say this leads to this, and now try this.
Yeah.
But that's not really what talk therapy is, from what I learned. So I stopped that for like 10 years and had an experience that was like a pivotal moment here.
Okay.
I lost one of my best friends, died suddenly.
Oh, wow.
This was when I was just picking up steam in my first shop that was mine. And like, celebrities are calling, and you're doing all the things that look like success, right? You're doing all the things. And then he died, and I was like, why does it fucking matter? And I just, I just started going through the motions for a couple of years, because I was in a service-based business where my job was to make sure everyone was okay and having the best time ever all the time. So there wasn't really room for me to be asked that question. That wasn't the role, So it became a really interesting experience. I learned a lot at that time.
Dang.
Yeah. It's crazy. I think that a lot of people, when they go into business, like, that's what gets so hard, is that you're focusing on this whole thing, but you also have life that's happening to you all the time.
Right.
And even when you're managing employees in the beginning, that's so hard for them to see, because in our culture, we're so used to, if you don't like your job, it's because your boss sucks.
Yes.
Maybe you suck, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I just think that level of self-awareness, I know you talk about that a lot, that's super tricky in the beginning, because it does feel so one-sided.
Right.
So
where
maybe
you're
like,
you can pick
I'm
up
learning.
on that. You probably try to pick up on that in the interview of like how self-aware are they of what moves them or what they need to feel full.
Or can they speak their needs, and can they communicate with you in a way that's going to be helpful, and can you communicate in a way that's helpful for them?
Yeah.
I like to look at all that before I bring someone on.
Yeah.
Now, knowing what I know now.
Yeah. Do you spend any time outside of the salon with the team?
Oh, yeah.
All the time? Okay.
All the time.
Okay.
We'll go on. I like to curate that by the person.
Okay.
So and my girls end up, if you talk to them, I'm like the Kris Jenner of this operation. Thanks a lot. Not quite there yet.
Not
but
GoPro?
No, right? Well, Kris Jenner, I think, is more relative to them. Glopro would be more relative to me. Probably a mixture. Clopla or whatever. But yeah, depending on each girl, as I get to know them, one of my girls has worked with me almost 6 years.
Okay. So
as I get to know her, I know that if we go and spend quality time, we've done like a lot of our exercises in our meetings are like, take your 5 love languages quiz. Let's see what everyone is. Let's talk about it. To me, it's just planting seeds of like, God, these are the things I wish I would have known at your age as a female.
And you're letting them come to their conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then the more I can learn that, I can see, well, how do I work with that?
Because it's one thing to just tell them how to behave or how to do,
but that's not learning.
Right.
that's dictating, you know?
Right.
So I try to be really collaborative. That can bite you in the ass too. But to me, it's like, am I doing my best with what I think I can offer? Am I constantly learning? Am I constantly trying to be my best self? If I do that, things will work out.
Yeah.
You know? So sometimes it's like, my girl Brittany, we just want to spend quality time together. So we'll go to lunch somewhere. The other day we went to Target. One of our girls just left on maternity leave yesterday. So everybody wanted to get her all of these treasures. So then we went to the wing to kind of check that out. And then we went and walked to Target. And I just like connect with her on what's going on in her life and what are her goals now. Because those change. I think employers get into a pickle when they don't constantly check in to see where's that person at now.
Right.
You can't say, Sally that I hired 5 years ago, I haven't checked in with her. How do you know what's going on and like what her goals are now? Because we're constantly evolving.
Is this something you, not enforce, but like would advise your other licensees to practice as well?
I think so.
But like, what if they don't? You know, it's like it's out of your hands.
It's out of my hands.
Yeah.
And that goes to the surrender of it. I think it's helpful, and I think that can look different for everybody.
Right.
You know, my approach is my approach, but some sort of approach where you're fostering a sense of like mutual respect and accountability, I think it's important.
Yeah. What you do with the team reminds me of Phil Jackson.
Oh yeah.
He would give books to his players.
Oh my God, books, clothes, Palo Santo, incense, juice.
It's just like what does this person need, like, or think what do I think that this person needs at this time?
In the beginning, because a lot of my girls in the beginning were very young. They were fresh out of school, so they'd be early 20s. Brittany, who I speak about, who's been with me 6 years, started with me when she was 18.
Okay.
She's a baby.
Yeah.
With like a 2-year-old, I think.
Wow.
And just grew from making nothing and really having a limited skill set to now being able to go and be her own boss, which was always my goal.
Okay.
So it's been cool to watch that happen.
Yeah.
I feel like really growing with people is really important.
Yeah.
Are we growing together? Do we need to grow on? And you go into a different direction? That's cool. But how will we know unless we have the conversation? And I don't like being blindsided.
Right.
You know, and another thing that I learned about them, because they were young, they weren't exposed to a lot, right? So then they're servicing these clients that, what is our average client doing? Like going to a gala or an event or on TV or going to their lake house for the weekends. My girls didn't always experience that. So we'll go on retreats and go to a lake house for a weekend because I want them to experience what our clients experience. I'll take them to Soho House or Restoration or somewhere that's really interesting. And that's kind of one of our favorite activities.
Good for you.
That's what I hear from them. They're like, we love that. But to me, that was a good way that I learned. And so I just wanted to pass that on.
Have you heard of the nonprofit My Hood, My Block, My City?
I've heard of it,
by
but
Jamal
I don't know
Cole. He tries to provide opportunities for the kids in the South Side because they don't know anything but the South Side. They felt like they don't belong downtown on Michigan Avenue.
Sure.
And so they partnered with the Chicago Bears, and they go to every game now. Something as simple as that, or going to a museum, or going to a business downtown to see, the other side. There's more to life than trying to become a basketball player or gangbanging.
And as a boss, there's more to having a business than just the bottom line. Okay. So I just realized, how Facebook does the time hops?
Yeah.
I love those. So mine came up this morning, actually, where it was 2 years ago, I surprised my staff for Christmas, and their gift was I took them all to New York after Christmas because we slowed down in January. They worked so hard. I wanted them to go and have something to look forward to. Yeah. For the whole month they were going to get their ass kicked. Oh, yeah. Right? Yeah. And I wanted them to have a light at the end of the tunnel. And then when I take them there, I plan these whole beauty tours, I like to call them, and expose them to different atmospheres. And then everywhere we got, they wrote down the answer to 5 questions. Like, what did you taste? What did you touch? What did you feel? What did you sense? And I think it's something that will stay with them forever. Yeah, for sure. I know it did with me. So it's like... So with your team, could you, where do they want to go? Do they all want to open up their own shop? Everybody's different. Yeah. Oh my God. Everyone's so different. Because you've created such a great work environment. It's like, I kind of don't want to leave, It's like... I try. But, I respect whatever that answer is because I know how much I grow. Yeah. Right? So, if I look at that, that's why from the beginning we have that conversation. Is that something you want right now? Yeah. no, maybe 3 years. I'm like, okay, let's figure it out.
Right.
But I think everybody's answer is different. Some people are like, no, I just want to work 30 hours a week and go home. I'm like, I respect that. I think that it's tricky right now for young people in the world because they think that being their own boss is the only answer to success now.
Yeah.
That's kind of what's happening in the Instagram.
Hashtag boss babe and stuff.
Yeah, all of that, which I love. But that's not the answer for everyone. That's not the
Right.
best thing for everyone. So I'm trying to kind of show. That's why I show a lot of the same things all the time in my stories. These are the amount of hours that it takes for me to do what I do. This is how I keep myself sane. This is how I keep myself happy. This is how I keep myself grounded.
Nick,
for real.
Nick, this is for you, Nick. He's like, is Zen always Zen?
No. But you know what? It's a really good question. Hell no. It actually came from me really having to learn how to be balanced. That was, when I start to think about this, and I don't even know how long I've been calling myself that, that was almost like the carrot for me. This is what you want from your life because you grew up so chaotic. I learned so much about the nervous system, about PTSD in general. I had so many PTSD symptoms. And I still have PTSD tendencies. I think I like to call it that. PTSD tendencies. Like the other night, I went out on a Friday night, which never happens. I don't ever do that. But I have a dance crew, and they were like, we're going to go try to dance bomb for just a few songs before it gets busy. I'm like, fuck it, let's go. Let's do this. And so we did. And it was like 3 hours that we were out. But Friday night's so busy because we normally go out on Wednesday nights where there's a lot of time. You know you're going to get like an hour and a half.
Okay.
Maybe 2 hours of really good dancing to live music. The place we go, it's amazing. I said, fuck it, it's Friday. I'm going to be reckless because I never do that. I'm like home with my dogs on my computer like a lame ass. So we went out and it was everything. But like me becoming Zen has been very intentional. Very intentional. Oh, my point about being out on a Friday night. As I don't drink anymore. I haven't drank really at all in like 3 years. And that was a conscious decision. And then when it became close to 12 o'clock, I was like, get out of here. Shit's going down. I don't like to see it anymore. I don't like to see people make that switch from being like
to real
sober
reckless,
to really, really buck wild. I learned that I just really don't love that. Yeah, it's been crazy. I used to be the girl ordering car bombs for everybody. Everybody get as drunk as me. So Zen is not always Zen. She was a savage.
Yeah. Right. Well, Nick says the same thing too.
Really, Nick and I are spirit animals. I talk to his wife Victoria about this all the time. We talk about it all the time. Nick's like my long lost brother. Yeah. He's so much like me, and he's so much like the dynamic I have with my brothers. Yeah. That I just totally get him. We met at the first time. We had been friends on Instagram. And I was a patron of their business. I love Juice. Juice has been so transformative for me. And so we were always like, yeah, we're going to meet up. You know, and that's an entrepreneur conversation. Like, it's so hard to do. And we both knew we were going to Tony Robbins. And the last day, we both took a break at the same time. We didn't know. We were trying to meet up, but not like hardcore. And then a walk, I was like, what is up, dude? And we had never met. So it was awesome. We hugged it out and had a great convo. Aww. I just adore him. Yeah. And I adore his wife. I love her.
Yeah, Victoria.
Yeah, we're a lot alike. It's super funny.
Can you talk a little bit more about the babes behind brands?
Yeah.
So what are some things that these other babes working through? What are they coming to you for?
You know, I really try to craft the content based on what I'm hearing in coaching sessions or in retreats where it's groups of people, or just when I see people posting online. I kind of can read between the lines. Right. And a lot of it is, okay, how do you manage a team? There's so much more to that question. Really goes down to how do you manage yourself? How do you manage your emotions? How do you manage your ego, to me? Yeah. So to me, the whole babes community is meant to be a deep dive into the real shit. Yeah. Not anybody can give you a 3-step process, right? On how to do something. I want to give you that, but for your heart and for your mind, because the mind can play a lot of tricks on you. And when we realize that we are not our mind and that you're able to put your mind where you need it to be by focusing it, in a lot of other tools, like I think it's very helpful. So that's what I'm interested in talking about.
And can you do that at scale, or do you feel like you'd have more of an impact with a one-to-one conversation?
I think at scale is actually better. Okay. So, well, I'll tell you why. Because when I started coaching one-on-one, it's amazing, but there's only so much you can do. based on the hours in a day. And it kind of capped me at the amount of people that I could reach. So when I started talking to groups, I said, oh shit, this is for me.
Okay.
I loved it. I'm a storyteller. I love telling stories. I'm usually walking around and animated and having them do planks, just depending. I'm like a little drill sergeant. Fuck it. It's helped. It's helped. And then people from those experiences, I'll see them lose 80 pounds. And I'm like, how'd that happen? I asked one of my girls, that's actually happened like to 3 different people.
Oh, wow.
And I said, what, did I say something? Tell me so I can like infuse it again and help someone else. She's like, it was just the right words at the right time for me. And so now that's why I'm so excited working with groups, is you can work with more people at one time, and then any change they make is a ripple effect, because they go home and those changes are made at home.
Right.
Their husband's affected, their wife, their kids, their friends. It's amazing what kind of work you can do. So that also feels like what I learned as an early kid in the church.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy. It's just I talk with a few more F-bombs and a little bit different of a feel, but it almost feels like my offering to the world in that way.
Would you like to scale it to a Tony Robbins scale?
I don't know. I love events.
Yeah.
I love events, and I love the rah-rah, and I love the fucking physicality of it. In that way, I am a beast too. I like to push myself and see, like, how far can I take my body?
Right.
I don't know what to say. That is it.
Do you have a preference to either operating Glowout or speaking?
Babes?
Yeah.
Speaking? I think they all go together. I think I would miss one or the other. I think I couldn't just keep doing Glowout and not help more people, because that was where my heart was. My dad tells me that when I was a little kid. He's like, I knew. He's been in Alabama like 35 years, so he talks with an accent. He's so cute. He said, baby, I knew you were special. I said, really? And he said, we were at the grocery store one time. You were like 6 years old, and I lost you. He lost us one time at the Space Center, and the shit fucked him up for life. He was like so traumatized. We were just with the security guards eating lollipops. Like, what's up? I thought you guys were kidnapped. He said, I was in the grocery store, and I was like 6 or something years old, and I was climbing on the shelves.
Yeah, you're trying to help someone get something.
I was trying to help an old man who couldn't reach it, and I was so annoyed that no one noticed that he needed help. Imagine that.
What do you think is next for you? What are you excited about?
Oh God, everything.
I have a feeling you're always at the cusp of comfort / exciting, like new novel, right? So what's that next step for you?
I am an evolving creature. I've really started to own that. I think at first it used to be hard because my energy can affect people in a certain way. They can be really attracted to it. Yeah. Or really like, ugh, and I get that. I totally get that. For me, it's always following what feels right, even if it doesn't make sense to other people. So I have learned over the years, like, share your next ideas with people who have the knowledge and skill set to hear them. Yeah. Not like, you don't just tell everybody in your family what you're doing next, because they may not
be ready to hear or not want to hear.
Sometimes it's hard. Like, my dad will ask me what's going on. If I told him really what I'm doing, it would blow his mind. It does. He's just like, I can't comprehend it. But I get that.
Some people feel like you're wasting your time, and it's like, I don't want that negative energy.
You're doing too much. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So yeah, next for me, who knows? It's more events. I already have. So it's funny, I set this goal for Babes last year for 2019. So I just want to have a retreat every month, be able to travel a little, because for so many years, every bit of my time was devoted building this, that I didn't do anything for myself. I didn't see the world hardly at all. Right. I was just like grinding, and I had decided I didn't think that was the best way for me to work anymore. I think sometimes you have to do that to get to a certain spot. But I was like, okay, babe. You're in that spot. Babe is like a term of endearment, actually, for me and my friends. It's like, hey, babes. It's like I love a term of endearment. And I said, hey, babe, like, what's next? I want to see the world. I want to see things. I wasn't prepared to spend all my own money on it, but people were calling for me to come out there. I was like, perfect. So I got another job and started doing that. But next is more of that. So I made that 2019 goal of one retreat a month, and I beat that in November of 2018, because I'd already had them pre-booked. I was like, damn.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, so then I was like, okay, I need a different goal. So it ended up being like, it's probably been like 20 retreats this year. Okay. So a couple times a month I would have 2. And then when I come back to my business, I'm a better leader, because I've gotten so much information. I've gotten so much different experience and perspective. So to me, they go hand in hand, you know?
I feel like there's a lot of people that want to be a motivational speaker,
Mm-hmm.
but they might not necessarily have the experience to be a motivational speaker.
Like the street cred?
The street cred.
Ugh.
Right? So should someone be waiting until someone calls them? Because anyone can be anyone on social media these days, right? But
totally.
But yeah, I mean, it sounds like people were calling you to come through.
Yeah, which was really special and really cool for me. It was just a very cool thing to be appreciated for who you really are authentically.
Yeah.
I was like, shit.
Yeah, there's no other Jenn Dieas.
There's no other Jenn. I tell people that a lot that are scared when they start their business of competition. I'm like, no one's you.
Right.
Nobody's you. So you will get your people. I can't tell you how many that will be. I can't tell you what scale your business will look like, but if you want to do something, do it. No one's you. And I've told several people that, and they've come back later on and said it was very helpful. I'm like, well, fucking great. Amazing.
You thinking about this because you brought it up a minute ago, but I love the way you handle criticism, right? So, and we can't always make everyone happy, but how do you handle those negative reviews?
I've always seen it in a lot of different ways. Like if you can't come to me directly, then that's telling me something.
It's easier to do it behind the screen, right?
Yeah, which is not helpful.
Right.
But I mean, okay, that's cool. I just always took it of what can I learn? Is there anything that I should shift and do different? Sometimes it's a good observation where it's like, ooh, shit.
Okay.
Sometimes truth hurts, dude.
Okay.
And I've actually had not terrible experiences with, online bad reviews. Our Yelp reviews are amazing.
Okay.
And I've kept it that way for 10 years by the culture that we set and the training and the time that I put into this. So I think I've had a pretty fair shake online.
And I mean, there are some people that are probably just trying to get a comp out of it,
Oh, yeah. And then so I just give them their damn money back. Have a great day. See you later. Bye. Get out of here. Beat it, Sally. Sometimes because I don't want to play the game.
Yeah.
I don't want to play that game. Sometimes people do that. I don't even think they know they're doing it. My mom used to, actually, this is hilarious. My mom used to be like the queen of that. We would go to Pizza Hut and she didn't think the pizza was good enough and I'm going to take your job. I'm like,
this
give
entitlement,
a fuck about his
right?
Job,
yeah,
lady. But for her, I think it was a hustle. I don't know how intentional that was. It'd be interesting to know. But yeah, sometimes when I spot that, I'm like, see you later.
Yeah.
Take your money.
Right.
And because sometimes people just want to fucking argue with you. And I'm like, I don't want to argue with you. You're right. You win. Take your money. Sorry.
Right.
We did our best.
Right.
And I feel like in the beginning, I used to take it so personally and I used to be so upset about it. But now I realize none of that has anything to do with me, And there will be people that will give me feedback and they'll email me personally. I'm like, thank you so much. Done and done. I'll look at that. At the end of the day, I realize I'm doing my best. If I'm doing my best, that has to be enough. Today's enough. That's it.
Damn.
Yeah, if not, then I'm like harming myself.
Right.
And I kind of almost started to see it as a form of self-harm. If I was going to beat myself up about something, what purpose does that serve? Right?
Yeah, if you're not learning anything from it.
No, just take the lesson and move on.
Right.
Take the lesson, feel it. What can you learn? Okay, cool, move on.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. That's all I had, Jenn.
Cool.
Is there anything that's like, what's been like a recent, talk of the salon? Like, is it different by day, or like what are people just in the mood for?
I mean, what's interesting about the salon life, although it can seem so light and airy, we're actually doing deep inner work with people.
Yeah.
And in ways that they don't even realize. In the ways that the speed in which we speak to them, the tone in which we speak to them, the music that's playing, the scents that you smell when you walk in.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, those are
right?
lovely.
Visually what you see. So I'm constantly...
in the space that they're here not just to get a service, but to hang out.
Yeah, they're here to elevate, right? They're here to get a boost. They come to us for... Yeah, you're coming for a spray tan. What does a spray tan do? It makes you feel like a bad bitch. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm so cute. You know what I mean? That's what I want to send out into the world. So they may come in stressed, anxious. Even people that are traveling, there's so much travel anxiety.
Right.
They come in with that, and I slowly have been really trying to teach my girls, this is why we do things this way. It's not just because I want it my way. It's because I've developed this way because I think it's really helpful.
Right.
when you go into a hotel and they speak to you in a certain way, and
It's
they move their
intentional,
hands
yeah.
in a certain way,
Right.
it's all to get a psychological effect.
Yeah. And that helps, especially when you're dealing with clients that are under a lot of pressure, maybe for like a wedding or a bridal shower or whatever.
Oh my God.
So
wedding pressure, wedding culture is.
So your Zen-ness should rub off on theirs.
I had a client the other day who's getting married, and Thursday is when they come to get their tan for the wedding. Friday is when all the festivities start, but Thursday is when a lot of people come into town. The OG family members come into town on Thursday.
Right.
And I had a girl in my room, and they're also naked in there, right? So there's a level of vulnerability. And so a lot of shit goes down in those rooms.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm so stressed. I just don't feel like I have the energy to go and see more people, because you're planning. There's all this shit that goes into it. And then when the week comes, it's just like an bombardment of energy, but it's positive, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
And I think people don't realize that. And so I said, well, what's your plan? It's just when I go home, I think I'm going to watch something mindless like Housewives, and I wanted to puke. I was like, fuck, how do I tell her? I was like, okay. So I had to put on my life coach hat. I'm like, how do you feel when you watch the Kardashians or whatever she was going to watch? Bravo. Oh, Bravo. Yeah. I was like, how do you feel when you watch that? And she goes, oh, I don't even pay attention. I said, really? And she, I was hoping for another answer. And she said, yeah, it's just mindless in the background. I was like, would you mind if I told you my opinion? And she's like, no. I was like, well, it's not actually mindless, because have you ever noticed that most of the time it's just arguing and the ladies are kind of strung out on like pills or booze? She's like, yeah. I'm like, so wouldn't it just be like transporting yourself into a situation that was like people yelling? She said, yeah. I said, would that feel good? She said, no. I said, fuck that shit. And she didn't watch it. And she emailed me later and she's like, I'm so glad you said that. Instead, I read a book and I was able to totally calm myself down. And I was like, check, that's a win.
Oh, wow.
And so every time I see people in here, whether it's 5 seconds, 5 minutes, 5 days, whatever it is, I'm always trying to get to what can help them today.
Right.
How are they feeling right now? What are they working on? How can I be of help?
Yeah.
So,
I dig that.
Yeah, it's a fun little game to play with and
now,
really see.
Do you ever feel depleted after being of service?
I have to watch it. So that's something I had to learn in the beginning when I started doing coaching, because we see a high volume of people because our services are very short. For a lot of them are very short. And in the beginning, it was like, oh my God, I didn't know how to not absorb energy around me.
Okay.
That's where yoga and juicing and sleeping is so helpful, exercise, all those things are like my tools.
Yeah.
And I use them differently every day depending on my energy level. But if I don't use them, I'm not as good for me. And so that's what I like to share, like on my social channels. Yeah, you see my feed every day. People are like, what are with the feed? I'm like, you want to lose your mind or not? Like, that's, for me, that's what happens. It's good. So it's been kind of really fun to see what I can share and how that can be helpful. And when people tag me in their feed, I could cry.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, oh my God, it's making a difference. You know? So I had to learn how to not absorb that energy. It's so much. And then people are like, why do I feel heavy? I'm like, you're carrying everyone's shit.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So that's been a really great lesson. And I think that's a great lesson that I use now going forward in relationships that I'm in. Like, how do you balance the energy exchange at all times?
Right.
Are you giving too much? Or are you taking too much? You know?
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun food for thought.
Right. Yeah, I think about that a lot. Okay. Well, that's all I had, Jen.
Yay.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to stay curious. Abba aloha. I'll see you in the next episode. Alrighty. That's it.
Yay. Oh.